with that, I think we've got just a housekeeping slide or two, and I'll let Lewis kick into the agenda. You guys are all on mute, so if there are any audio or video problems today, please let us know through the question section of GoToWebinar. We do have the session being recorded, so that way it can be later made into a session available in the MSP Institute. This is where all of our prior security and backup and other boot camp sessions and office hour sessions are maintained. So you can get access to this if there is something that was interesting to you. In addition, if you have audio problems, you may try disconnecting the voice over IP settings or reconnecting and disconnecting audio a couple times inside of GoToWebinar to see if that corrects your issue. If it does not, just let us know in the question section, and we will look to see if the rest of the audience is having similar problems and try to address on the back end. Now, since this is a session where we're looking for feedback and questions and items from you, please drop any questions, queries, inquiries into the question section. As Lewis is going through his various content, I'll try to help address those behind the scenes. If it's relevant to the current discussion, I'll bring it up with Lewis, or we may pause until we get to that particular section in order to address your questions. If it's outside of the scope of what we're discussing today, we'll try to get to those post-session, or maybe bring in the appropriate product manager, sales engineer, or other subject matter experts as necessary. But really, no questions are really off limits. Did I miss anything there, Lewis?
No, Eric, that was a wonderful intro. Thank you for that. For anybody that's here for the first time and has not been to office hours of any type, the security office hours, well, they're monthly sessions. The ones that I do for security are focused on security. We'll be reviewing whatever's happened on Patch Tuesday, since we're usually doing this 1 or 2 days after Patch Tuesday occurs. We'll also be reviewing any significant out-of-band updates that have come out from Microsoft, as well as any issues that have arisen because of recent patches. We'll also cover recent security news, any upcoming security features in our products. Again, those forward-looking things, just to give you a little sneak peek of what's happening. Also, any new cookbook items that have been pushed out that are relevant to security. So for anybody that's not been exposed to it before, we have a cookbook section on the website under success.enable that has scripts that you can use for RMM or in Central, and if there's any that are particularly relevant to, say, a security incident, one of our security solutions like EDR or anything else, we'll point those out. We'll also have Q&A at the end, so we'll more address a little bit deeper questions that we can address while we're going through, as well as offering those one-on-one follow-ups when needed. So again, don't be shy about putting questions into the questions area if you think it's, whether it's something you think is a short answer or a long answer, get it in there. And the whole goal is to get you where your operations are more secure and more efficient, where either we're just saving a few minutes off of your day by letting you know the most relevant patches or vulnerabilities you should be concerned with, or whatever it is. Hopefully it's doing you some good to be here. So first we're going to go into recent security news, and the thing that of course a lot of people are going to be worried about again is there are another round of Exchange vulnerabilities that were announced on Patch Tuesday. They're all carrying high CVSS scores, so they're all critical vulnerabilities. 2 of them are pre-authentication, so this puts these in the same wheelhouse of vulnerability as far as how bad they could be as the proxy logon vulnerabilities from last month. And because of that, the CISA has updated their emergency directive that they pushed out about those vulnerabilities last month. They have updated them to tell federal civilian agencies that you have until Friday to apply the necessary patches. And keep in mind, this is stuff that was announced Patch Tuesday. Only 4 days later, they're saying you need to have this installed. So they're taking this seriously. This was also originally reported by the NSA, which probably means that there are proof of concepts already out there. And the reason why the NSA reported it and Microsoft is now pushing these vulnerabilities and updates is because they're worried about imminent exploitation of these. So this is a better patch now rather than remediate later situation.
So, Lewis, if I do nothing, is the FBI going to come through and patch it for me?
Actually, I've got another little thing coming about that up next. So, you'll be, and it might be well, not the next slide, but it's going to be one or two slides ahead. But back to the whole, better patch now than remediate later. It's better to do the work to get the patching in as quickly as possible rather than waiting to find out that there are active exploits in the wild being leveraged. And now you don't have to worry about only patching. You've also got to worry about figuring out if your system was compromised. And for anybody who went through that last month with the proxy logon, that is not a non-insignificant amount of your time to make that happen. So if you take anything away from today's session, it should be patch these vulnerabilities. The extra news as far as a useful tool, the CISA, Cybersecurity Infrastructure Agency, I pay very, very close attention to what they announce as well as what tools they put out. They've updated their Sparrow tool and added a new Avery visualization tool to help out with cloud infrastructure. Specifically, it's about being able to audit your M365 and Azure environments. Lots and lots and lots and lots of people and departments and agencies are all moving to the cloud. And as you move to the cloud, there's a whole new skill set that you need in order to sufficiently secure it and audit it. So these are some tools that allow you to do those auditing. So if you've never done a security audit of your 365 tenants, the Sparrow tool is a great way to start. It's free. It's a PowerShell tool, so it doesn't take a lot to use it. And it's going to be auditing the logs for indicators of compromise. It'll list out your domains and it'll leverage, it'll check your graph API permissions to make sure that, it doesn't spot any potentially malicious activity in the way those permissions have been set. This links for these tools are in the handout. So in the GoToMeeting panel, there's a handout section with a download. In there will be the links for this as well as any other articles or things I'm referencing. There will also be a full list of all of the critical vulnerabilities and any vulnerabilities that are labeled as exploitation more likely, because those are the ones you want to focus on first. Next slide. There we go. Won't someone please think of the cheese? So one of the challenges in the security space whenever you're dealing directly with clients is getting them to take things seriously. Ransomware is a big scary thing, and it's usually not that hard, but there are clients that just think, well, if ransomware happened to us, it's really not going to be that big of a deal. You got backups. Well, here's a story out of the Netherlands. What happened was a Dutch logistics company was hit with a ransomware attack. And one of the things that they're responsible for is delivery of groceries, primarily, refrigerated items to supermarkets. And they got hit with ransomware. So that was a cascading effect to where they could not receive orders from supermarkets. They couldn't find the existing shipments that they already had in their refrigerated warehouses. They couldn't load those shipments for delivery. And now they've got supermarket customers who are angry because, they can't get cheese. This type of cascade effect of failures is something that's important to sit down and really talk to clients about at least one time, because they probably don't have a good handle on what it's actually going to be like if they get hit with ransomware. Doing that risk assessment with them to let them know that if you get hit with ransomware, you're not going to have access to your client list. You're not going to have access to your financials. You're not going to have access to all of these mission critical things that your employees need to do their job. So not only is it the fact that you're going to lose money paying me for my man hours to remediate the situation, depending on your business, you may be down to only 60% productivity. You may be down to 0% productivity. So this is a good little article to kind of, it's kind of joking, it's tongue in cheek, but it's a simple scenario that can help get the point across to clients. And as Eric mentioned earlier about the FBI, so what they have actually done is, well, they're not going to patch your systems for you. But on April 9th, they did receive a federal warrant from DOJ to run an operation for 14 days to remove active web shells that they have found exposed on Exchange servers. So this is a cleanup process to try and sanitize systems that were compromised during last month's proxy logon vulnerabilities. Now, the only thing that they're going to be doing is removing the exposed web shells that are accessible via the internet. That's it. They're not going to be patching anything. Vulnerable systems will still be vulnerable and can be recompromised. And part of their efforts is to reach out to those affected entities after the fact and let them know. And this is just a consequence of there are hundreds of Exchange servers out there that are still vulnerable, that have active web shells on them, that probably multiple attack groups are leveraging these. So they are taking drastic steps. This is one of the first times that they've actually exercised this power. Probably not going to be the last time, but this is this is something to put in front of clients to say, you know what, people are taking this stuff seriously at all levels. We should too.
I was taken back by this a bit, Lewis. So, to me, it looks, it feels like, okay, fine, the FBI's got permission now to hack those same machines using the same backdoors or vulnerabilities in order to remove this type of environment. So I don't know. I'm still not quite sure how I feel about this one. It feels very, very overreaching. But then again, I'm glad somebody's doing it, right?
Right. Yeah. And this is one of those situations of someone needs to do it. And if it's a month later, you've kind of made the declaration that we don't care, and we don't, not necessarily we don't care, but we're not taking this seriously, and we don't care about the collateral damage that's happening because we have an unsecure system.
And of course, and of course, I guess the FBI is just asking the NSA for the credentials for the machine since they already had them anyway.
They don't even have to, because of the way this compromise works, all they've got to issue is one single command line input, and that's it, and it's done.
Interesting. Okay.
And all it does is delete the web shell that's there. So it doesn't really do anything drastic to the systems. It's just deleting the malicious web shell that's present. And again, it doesn't fix the vulnerabilities. The machine is still going to be vulnerable. And that's the purpose of the outreach, to let the affected entities know that, hey, we nuked that malicious web shell that was exposed to the internet on your system, but you still need to follow up and do your due diligence and patch and update your systems.
Yeah. Okay.
So April Patch Tuesday. So things that have happened this month on the patch side of things, we had 110 vulnerabilities addressed. That is up from last month. 19 of those are rated critical, and 9 of those are exploitation more likely. So to put that in perspective, and this is one of those things that I think, unless you're in the trenches and unless you've had to manually do this type of stuff before, it doesn't really sink in what it means whenever somebody says, oh, Patch Tuesday dealt with 110 vulnerabilities. So what that means for the technicians that actually have to carry out the work of patching, they've got to contend with 3,459 different potential patches and operating system combos. So this is one of the reasons why patch management needs to be scalable. You cannot afford to have a manual patching process in place where a technician has to burn the efforts to deal with 3,459 potential different permutation of patching every month. So if you've never been down in the trenches, if you've been more of a operations manager or business manager type role, this is an important little thing to recognize. It is not an insignificant amount of time that could go into patching, and the bandwidth needs to be there for it to be done correctly. And any way you can augment that bandwidth with patch management through RMM or N-Central or WSF servers, it should be done. For the operating system vulnerabilities that are marked as critical, there were 12 different RPC vulnerabilities, so remote procedure calls. These are things that are, for the most part, require no interaction from an end user. They can be taken advantage of multiple different ways, either directly on the endpoint or over the network in some cases. These all were carrying CVSS scores of up to 9.8. They go all the way back to Windows 7 and 2008 server. So if anybody's out there with extended support on those systems, these vulnerabilities apply, and you're going to have patches for those systems concerning these. There are also 2 vulnerabilities for the Windows Media Player video decoder. These are carrying 7.8 with exploitation less likely, but they're still critical vulnerabilities. And again, all the way back to Windows 7 and 2008 are affected by this. So if you're in extended support, you should be able to get the patches for those. On cumulative updates. So we had, of note, there were 2 cumulative updates, KB 500-1330, which was for Windows 10 20H2. This includes the out of band update from March that fixed the blue screen of death issues related to printing. There are some other general fixes and improvements that were in there as well. For Windows, KB 500-1337 was for Windows version 10 1909. And this is the final cumulative update for this build, and that is because it is reaching its end of service here soon. With those cumulative updates this month, we have some specific things that are worth calling out. One of those is Microsoft Edge is now dead. It's going to be replaced with Microsoft Edge Chromium. So as soon as these cumulative updates are installed, it is going to remove the legacy version of Edge from systems and have the Chromium version instead. So this might be something that is worth looking into and putting some communication out to clients about this before you start pushing those cumulative updates. Because, well, clients end users don't like when things change. And even though it might be completely the same functional wise as far as what they're going to use, the icon looks a little different. It's a different shade of gray, whatever it is, they're going to be upset about it. So it might be worth putting out some communications around this. Also, this was the cumulative update, again, the final for 1909. And 1909, 1803, and 1809 are all hitting their end of service next month. So that means, well, it needs to be budgeted into everybody's schedules or to figure out what you're going to do about updating to 20H2 or 2004, whatever you decide to go into. But you need to get off of these old builds because, well, they're not going to be getting the cumulative updates. They're only going to be getting security updates at this point, which for some environments that might be acceptable because you're going for long-term builds. But If not, it's worthwhile getting on to these newer builds for, of course, the cumulative updates, system improvements, operation improvements, everything that comes with the new model that Microsoft is moving to. So what to prioritize this month? So again, in the handouts, I'm going to have all of the links, and there's also going to be a table at the bottom with all of the individual vulnerabilities, the CVSS severity scores, as well as exploitation more likely. These are all of the ones that you're probably going to want to focus on first. There are the exchange vulnerabilities that need to be dealt with as soon as possible in your environments. The 19 critical updates that are for the RPC and for the Windows Video Decoder, and then the ones marked as exploitation detected or more likely. There are a handful of Office Suite updates and some other application updates. None of them are marked as critical. They're all important or lower. So while they still need to be done, they don't necessarily need to be priority one. For issues around patches this month, so far it's been rather light on complaints. No giant nasty surprises. One has been that there has been failures of the cumulative updates for Windows Server 2019, the 1809 build. Has been having issues installed. That can be resolved by installing KB 500.140.1.4 first. Then also there's been a issue with KB 500.1.3.3.0, which specifically is disabling SMB1 in environments. And so if you've got work group environments with a lot of outdated or older systems and file sharing setup, it's probably going to be causing you issues. This is a great opportunity to bring back up the fact with clients of, look, we're constantly having to come in, spend time, effort, and your money to refix these problems that keep showing up because you're still using SMB1 for file shares. We need to finally get you off of it. There are some workarounds for it. So there is the enabling SMB1, re-enabling it can fix it. While that's not, from a security stance, the best option to take, it is a valid option that will get you back in operation if needed. You can also edit host files so that the IP and DNS names are properly resolved. The host names are properly resolved. So we've gone through this pretty quickly. Everybody will notice, well, there's the elephant in the room. Gil's not doing this month because, well, I took his position. Gil's on to better private pursuits. He's got some things he wants to do himself, so we wished him well on those things. So a little bit of a change in the format since it's now under me now to do these. Not too drastic of a change, but I did want to make sure that I'm getting actionable information to everybody so that whenever you leave these sessions, you have a checklist or a set of action items for things to go actually take care of. So we're going to have a quick little Q&A session here for a few minutes since I've ran out of pre-prepared content. So again, if anybody's got any questions about something specific that we've covered or something else that you've heard that we didn't cover and you want to get some input about it, great. Feel free to throw those into the questions and we'll go over those.
Okay, so Gil, while we're waiting on the folks with any questions they might have or topics, I know that that you're working on new content too, as far as training and product training and things like that. And this was something that came up in a lot of previous post-session surveys and so on. Is we had partners that are looking for best practices around how to deploy patch or frequencies of patch and frequencies of reboot and best practices around pass portal and our various other security applications. And I can always talk to the backup aspect of it, but I'm not an expert in those other products. And the fact that you've touched, all the products here on the MSP side at Enable, I think it will, definitely benefit the audience as as you dig deeper into those and offer your insight and suggestions. So, for the audience there, if there are tools, products, recommendations, those type of things that you're looking for, I think this is one of the places to let us know that. I think you've got a post-session survey or a poll or something set up for that kind of approach as well. Is that correct?
Yes, because one of the larger long-term projects that I'm going to be spearheading for us is addressing security frameworks and playbooks. It's one thing for us to tell you you should use our products because it makes you more secure. It's a whole other thing for us to give you a set of instructions on how to build up a security framework, how to scale it, and how to do the actual technical aspect of implementing not just our solutions, but other best practices for your environments and other things. And we're going to be not really reinventing the wheel with it. We're going to be using a lot of commonalities from well-respected security frameworks, so the NIST cybersecurity frameworks, as well as the CIS 20 controls. So that'll be something that, again, in the end, we want you to have an actionable set of information you can use. So if there are things in that realm that you are interested about, you're worried about compliance with specific standards, or you're worried about, how do I design how do we design what we do so it's repeatable across the board and ticking off the most security boxes as possible. Let us know that. And a couple of the questions that came in. So any notable vulnerabilities from other vendors? And what are your thoughts about the name rec vulnerability? So those are kind of the, two different questions, same answer. The name rec, if for anybody that's not ran into it, that is name rec is a problem with the DNS resolution for certain solutions using specific TCP/IP stacks. And the one of note that I think most people here are most likely to be exposed to are the ones related to FreeBSD. So if you're using FreeBSD appliances, I believe it is either 2.1 or 21, the version. My dyslexia is kicking in. But I do have that in the handout, that it's another thing that, worth going to look at. And all you've got to do to fix that is, run your updates, update to a newer version if you're on an older version, and that'll handle that for you. There are some other areas where that name rec is also a problem, and that's going to be an issue more for actual pre-packaged appliances that are using it. It's not a lot of stuff where you can do patching or updating aside from just going to the vendors, finding the new version of the firmware, see if they say that they're addressing it in that firmware update, and applying it. So that's one of those unfortunate situations with name rec of, well, you have to know your stack. You have to know the appliances you're using. You need to be subscribed to whatever status or patch update channels they have, so you can find out about these things whenever they come out. Now, it is a not insignificant vulnerability. It is something that potentially cause lots of issues. I could see it being used for DNS amplification attacks in some way. There's also the other DDoS capabilities potentially being derived out of it. So it's a potentially bad thing. It's kind of like with the vulnerabilities for Exchange that were announced this month. They're potentially very bad, and a lot of bad things can be done with them. They're just not actively being used at scale in the wild, as far as the private sector and public sector is aware of. Federal agencies and nation states may be already leveraging them, but we don't know about that yet. For other vendors, Adobe, not much there. Standard, kind of regular roll-ups, nothing too drastic for them. Chrome, the main branch for Chromium, received quite a few updates this month. Some of them are fairly, some of them are criticals, most of them are just general fixes. But be wise to make sure that if you are using Chrome in your environments, that those are getting updated. With the push of Edge to the Chromium version of Edge, that should be getting auto updated, so you shouldn't have to worry about that for this month. No other questions are coming in. We'll keep those coming in, but while we're waiting on them, we're going to jump on to some of the poll questions we've got set up. First is just the generic, how did you like today's session? Did you get any use out of it? So from a scale of 1 to 5, 5 being it was useful, 4 being not very useful. Get those in there for us, if you don't mind, so we can know, really.
And I'm working on a launch that for you there, Lewis. Give me 1 second.
Okay.
There we go. So while you guys are voting on that one, I did have a updated note I saw from Carla Gajecki, who's our AV Defender PM. So I guess there were some issues with a recent update of Windows and the Tuesday release. So there's how's she saying this here? So following a recent update of Windows containing 2 particular KB articles, I've pasted those into the question section. You guys can see all those as a response, I think. Not the best place to paste it, but that was the first place I saw. Bitdefender encountered failed agent installations caused by a failed integrity check for the downloaded files. Bitdefender's identified the issue as being a behavior change to the Microsoft integrity check function, resulting from a new update, and working on with Microsoft on a fix for it. And so on. So there's some notes there. There's a success article or a KB article on that one. So just a little bit more information for you guys if you didn't get that notice or update and weren't aware of that.
Yeah, and that one will be, for the most part, easy enough to deal with. If you want to go ahead and address it, patch management through RMM and Send Central allows you to easily uninstall a patch, so you can pull that patch out, get the Bitdefender update done, and then re-enable if you need to, if that's kind of one of your environment, the issue that you're running into while we address it on the back end.
And I'm thinking, but actually I didn't give you guys the entire article link, did I? Let me do that. It looks like it cut it off in the chat there. I'm going to drop it into all audience. There we go. There's the steps on how to roll it back and redeploy. In the chat section, not the question section. Okay, we can go ahead and pull this poll down now. Let's see, close. And that is it down.
All right, and then we got another poll question. And this is just to, to shape these sessions going forward. What would you like to see more of in the office hours? Do you want more detailed information about vulnerabilities are exploited and what kind of damage they can actually do? News articles to drive client conversations with? Indicators of compromise and tools for discovery. So the actual, similar to like how we had for the proxy logon last month, we put in the cookbook a system monitor, a 24/7 check that you could add to your dashboards that would let you know if your Exchange server had been experienced a compromise based on one of the vulnerabilities. It's a small thing, but it's work that you don't have to do, and you can more quickly turn around, put them in production, and target your responses a little bit more quickly. And then also the RMM and central service monitors and checks. So just the literal, don't care about tools outside or indicators of compromise. We just want to know what we can add to RMM or to Essential to improve the security of our environments, to harden our systems, things of that nature.
Okay, we can pull this one down. So we've got a good number of votes on this one. Let's see, close, and we'll share that one out. So people are looking for even split. Wow. Indicators of compromise and tools for discovery. So you've nailed that one. And then, yeah, RMM and central service monitors checks. Okay.
All right. So good news is that complements very nicely with what we were already going to be working on. If you need something now for certain monitoring, and you've not already looked at the cookbook, take time to go check the cookbook. I've added some things in there like VSS monitoring, snapshot age out monitoring. So if you are using our EDR solution, the rollback feature that is in it is based on the VSS snapshots of a system. So in the cookbook, we have a VSS snapshot age monitor.
We're not seeing your screen right now, Lewis. I think it's still stuck on the poll. Can you hit the share or the screen share real quick there again?
There we go. Now, is it shared out now? Is it off of the poll?
No, I'm still seeing the poll on my end. Let me try to share that result again and then hide it. No, I'm still seeing the poll. I was hoping you could bring up the actual cookbook website.
Yeah, that's what I was heading for.
Um,
All right.
hit your show screen button there just again, if you don't mind. There we go.
On air, showing screen. There
Perfect.
All right. So again, cookbook, great resource. We add all types of service monitors and checks in here, either ones that we write, the sales engineers write, or partners submit to us. And one of the recent ones that I added in here was the VSS snapshot age monitor. So this is, again, if you're using our EDR solution, the rollback feature depends on VSS snapshots being present on the system. To improve the reliability of that, you want to make sure that you have snapshots that aren't too old. So what these monitors will do is it lets you set a threshold. It lets you set a threshold of how many hours you want to have as your threshold. So if the last VSS snapshot on a fixed drive is older than X number of hours, the service monitor or the check will fail. And that'll give you your heads up that something's happening. You're not getting good snapshots on that system. Your rollback capabilities aren't going to be as reliable anymore. It needs to be addressed. And there's also other situations where you might need to be able to monitor your snapshot ages. And this is a great one for those types of things. And this is not so much about hardening a system, but just keeping an eye on making sure that what you want to be able to do when you need to be able to do it is going to work for you. And we'll also be going forward with this as we add in new items to the cookbook. And you are curious about security items, this search for security, and we'll have them tagged in here. So here's some IOCs, and these are the ones from last month's proxy logon vulnerability. And going forward, we'll tag them as such, and you'll be able to quickly come in here and find them. There's also the blogs. If you have not been taking advantage of those, there's the blog articles that Mr. Harless puts out, as well as other of our nerds are producing. And then there's also the security blogs as well that you can come in here and check out whenever you need. We do a Patch Tuesday specific blog that comes out either right before or right after the security office hours happens. So if you can't catch the security office hours and you don't want to wait until we post that recording later, you can check in here and we'll have the same content for the most part covered in the blog article. Specifically, I'll make sure that we always have the list of what you should prioritize as vulnerabilities. So the critical vulnerabilities, the ones that are marked as more likely to be exploited, or the ones that are actively being exploited out in the wild. So you'll still have one more location to go and get that list so your team can prioritize what you're going to go after first.
And so just to reiterate, Lewis had mentioned this already, but the links to any of these sites, the cookbook, the blogs, the Success Center, things like that, are all of the critical issues he's talked about today. Those are in the handouts document. You know, do be sure you download that handout link and use that for your reference.
And we haven't seen, nobody needs to see my GIMP. We don't look like we got any new questions in the chat. I'm just going to re-review this. Yep, I don't see any new ones. We're going to give it since we got a whole 15 minutes left on the hour, we'll just give everybody this courtesy of a few more minutes to get those questions in if you have them. If not, and you've got what you've needed from us today, well, it's been a pleasure. But if you want to have a little bit more of a say in what we're doing, think about joining the partner advisory groups that we have. You can give us feedback on how you want us to help you grow your business. Potential to influence our roadmap items, get early looks at features, an opportunity to engage with your peers. And this is a big thing. There are hundreds of MSPs out there, thousands of MSPs that all have slightly different ways of doing things. There's good ideas to share amongst everybody. And also the ability to engage directly with senior relationship, of course, and this is our RMM in Central, our enabled partners only. So you're going to be participating with other people that are actively using our solutions.
So if you want to sign up for that or get those invites so you can opt into joining those sessions, they typically happen at least twice annually, maybe more depending on COVID and work from home requirements and things like that. Although we do like to extend these things to our in-person shows when those are back on the agenda. Another thing to do there is to sign up for this or to get more information on it, just make a quick note in the question section with the letters PAG for Partner Advisory Group, and that can get you on that list. Good deal. See a couple of us coming through. Appreciate that, guys. Now, obviously, no obligation there for the Partner Advisory Groups. You just you'll get the invites, and then you can opt in as to whether you want to attend those or be made aware of those in the future.
All right, and we've got a few of those people coming in interested in the PAG. No other questions, looks like, for anything security related. So it's been a pleasure, everyone. Thank you for joining us for the first time around on the security office hours with me leading. We'll be doing this again next month. Make sure you're registered. We'll be doing those all the way into June and July. I believe June is already listed. So if you're already registered for this one, you'd be registered for those. If you somehow found this link some other way or somebody passed it to you and said, go to this, make sure you find the link in the handout and register for those future ones so you can attend those as well. So again, been a pleasure, everybody. I'm going to leave this open a little bit longer to get those additional requests in if anybody wants to join the PAG, as well as any other questions anybody might have that's lingering.
Well, thank you, Lewis. Great job today. Do appreciate that. look forward to getting into some of these deeper dives and getting deeper into the scripting and the patching and all the automation sides that you bring to this. So I'm excited, and you'll probably see Lewis on some of my upcoming events as well. So if you want to get in on the office hours for backup, those typically happen on the Tuesday of the week before. So we did our April 1 on Tuesday this week, and going through a similar type of approach. I'm looking at security enhancements right now, security best practices, things like that, to help you guys harden and strengthen your backup, whether it be the integrated or standalone SolarWinds backup, or even if you're using other third-party backup solutions. I know sometimes you're managing multiple solutions for your partners, so looking at ways and best practices to help you guys identify potential risks and just harden backup solutions as a whole. So if I can be of assistance to you guys as well, please feel free to reach out. And it looks like that's it, guys. So hey, have a great rest of your week, and we'll give you a couple minutes back. Thank you for your time and attention.